Let's get started, shall we? So first off, welcome. Absolutely amazing 2019 NWFA. We're going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to walk you down a path. You can follow, you can choose to follow along or not. First thing we're going to talk about is wood. After all, that's why we're all here, right? So wood is pretty amazing stuff. It was once a living thing. Wood has a personality. I like to call it passive aggressive. And the reason I say that is people say all the time, water and wood don't mix. That is not true. Wood has no problem with water as long as it's expecting it. So unexpected loss or gain is what gives wood a hard time. Once it shows up, once it's set for one thing and then all of a sudden water is introduced to the wood and it wasn't expecting it, it's going to react. So I'll give you a great example. Christopher Columbus sailed over here on a boat. It was made out of, right? It was made out of wood. A wine barrel's made out of wood. It's expecting the wine to be in the barrel to swell it up, to keep it watertight. Your back deck is made out of wood. As long as you have that gap in between the boards, it's expecting water. It's okay. It understands water's going to show up, and when it does, I have a place to go to. When wood gets upset, when wood rears its ugly head, is when it's introduced or water is lost out of it unexpectedly. Like for instance, I live in South Florida. I have a nailed down wood floor in my house. It's beautiful. In front of my glass sliding door, it is starting to gap. And the reason is that the sunlight's magnified through there. It's drawing the moisture out of the floor too much and it's starting to gap there. You would think in South Florida with 90% relative humidity, you would never have a problem with gapping wood. You would have a problem going the other way. But guess what? The wood was acclimated and the wood is in a conditioned house. And now the conditions are changing slowly in front of the glass sliding door. I actually mop it every now and then to put a little water back in there so it gets to where it's supposed to be. So when you hear things like water and wood don't mix, that's not true. It's unexpected water loss or gain that gives wood a hard time. Which brings me to my next point. We're going to talk about some things here today. And I need you to get outside of the box that you are currently standing in. Now you got to get out of that box and step away from it. Not too far. You want to keep it within your sight, but don't be afraid to think outside the box a little bit here. What we're going to talk about is preventing moisture from attacking the backside of the wood floor, whether it be through an adhesive or whether it be through some other methods. That's all we can do. I can't control if Mrs. Smith leaves the window open and it rains on the top of the wood floor. That's outside of my scope and your scope. That's on Mrs. Smith. I can't control if a hurricane knocks the power out and it's out for 8 days and the humidity rises up to 95% and there's no air to air condition it when the floor was conditioned for that. I can't control those things, but what I can control is I can control that vapor rise that's coming up through the slab and attacking the back side of the wood. That's what I can control. And how we do that, we have several methods to do that. We make moisture-proof membranes, we make moisture-proof glues, we make all kinds of different systems. Today we're going to talk about a couple of different ones, a little bit differently than what we've been looking at things. So, if you bear with me, I want to introduce a friend of mine, Logan Rivas. Logan is from the Dallas area. If you are a MAPEI customer, Logan is your tech rep locally here in the Dallas area. If you're not a MAPEI customer, shame on you, I'm just kidding. You should give us a try, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. What is Logan doing here? Anybody? A glue assist. I like that. And you know why? Because as always, people want wood, people want wider boards. They want the boards need to be wider and wider and wider. I cover all different types of floorings. Ceramic tile. Tiles are not getting smaller. Tiles are getting wider and bigger. People want 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch boards. Pretty soon people are going to want 24-inch wide boards on a floor. You're going to need a method to do that. This is a glue assist. It's typical glue assist. I'm going to go ahead and glue it on the back. What product is this, Logan?
907. Ultrabond 907.
Pardon?
Ultrabond 907.
907. So it's in a sausage tube, as you can see, and it's in the gun. I should have grabbed the sausage. It's in the gun. We want to go ahead and make nice squiggly lines on the back of the boards, flip them over, and we're going to magically, I am not going to nail this for you. I'm not sure I could nail any more if I had to. Comes in the tubes. You have the sausage gun. You know what to do. Glue assist. This is not anything that's amazing or outside of the box. This is just another weapon in the arsenal of what we're going to do. Are there moisture limitations on the product?
Sorry?
Are there moisture limitations on the product?
Not on this.
Well, in this application, there would be because I don't have a moisture barrier down, correct? So, 907. Questions so far? Yes, sir. Pardon? No, it's not. It's a polyurethane. Is it an MS? I've been corrected by the product manager. It is an MS technology. Thank you, and thank you. Pardon? When is it available? I like that question. We have a case of it here. When is it available? Soon. There's a corporate answer for you. Here, September. It'll be available by September. How's that? I'll give you a solid date. Yes, sir.
Actually, grab that water bottle. We did treat the plywood.
Oh, what did we treat the plywood with?
PMB.
Ah, PMB, which is the next thing I want to talk about. PMB is a polyurethane moisture barrier. Single component, comes in a can. I roll it out. Now by treating this, I don't know if you can see it, but the water is just beating up on the surface and not penetrating. This is huge. This is a huge. Yes, sir, go right ahead.
So kind of what we're getting at here, and this will give you a better idea, is so we've got a porous substrate. Okay, so this was already pre-treated over here, and so, and I know it's hard to see from out there, but you can see the water's beat it up, and we've got a pre-treated piece of hardy board to simulate, you know, a standard concrete substrate. But typically, if you pour out a couple drops of water, that's what you get. It wets out, a single drop of water turns into a big glob, right? And then it starts to absorb. Okay, over here, you'll see it beads up, right? So
water penetration, if it can't penetrate, it can't come up from the other side. That's a two-way street. This is important. Again, we're preventing that moisture from rising up. I live in the moisture capital of the universe as far as I'm concerned. I live in South Florida, which is built on a swamp. I started installing wood floors in South Florida in 1984, which the very first moisture-proof system I ever saw was we took third-grade sheet goods and turned them upside down and glued the vinyl side down to the slab. That was the moisture-proof system that we had back then. Things have progressed. There's lots of products out there. We make a couple of them that are dual component. It's a moisture, and by using a trowel clip, it'll be a moisture barrier plus an adhesive. Or just by using straight, a regular trowel, I can just use it as an adhesive. The situation or the problem I have with that is I like to be able to see that I have 100% moisture coverage, because when it comes to moisture and waterproofing, it's one of the only things in our business where you need to be 100%. 99.9%, you have a failure. You have an issue. So I want to be able to see that I didn't miss a spot, that everything is broken down, that everything is the way it's supposed to be. By doing a two-part system, I can do that. So you can see what Logan did right here. He rolled it out, and you want to be careful. Here's a couple of things. You want to use a 1/4-inch nap roller with that, and you want to roll that thing out. A thin layer is better than a thick layer. Matter of fact, if it's a thick layer, what happens?
it'll foam up, all right? So anytime we tell you to use a 1/4-inch nap roller to apply our products, we're telling you we want this applied thin, okay? A lot of our primers, you're gonna hear us ask for a 3/8 inch, okay? But when we go to a 1/4, we're telling you thin. So I realize this is the same thing on the tile side. We have to get through installers' heads that when you get into waterproofing, liquid applied waterproofing, the thought process all of a sudden becomes more is better, right? I mean, if a little bit is a little bit of waterproofing, a lot must be a lot of waterproofing.
Nah, it
That
doesn't work like that.
Not what we want here. So we really want you to kind of lean on it. So what we want is, you saw that there was that light colored gray when we started. We're just trying to change it. We're just trying to change the color, essentially. We need to penetrate down into the pores, okay? And that's it. We're not trying to build up a film. We're not trying to leave behind material, all right? We're just penetrating into the substrate and going on. That's all we want.
And because you understand something, those pores or that porosity is how that vapor rises up from the bottom and through. That's the passageway. The vapor's not passing through the cement particle or the sand particle or anything else. There are microscopic pores underneath there, and that's the passageway that that vapor is coming up through there. What do you've got here?
Well, so in the past, and part of why the industry moved away from these two component systems where you had to apply a moisture barrier and then apply the adhesive was the waiting time, right? I mean, nobody wanted to do the moisture, treat moisture today and then come back tomorrow and install. So what we've done is we're now installing just a couple hours after we apply this. Direction, you guys want to slap it down in big circles and do what you do, great. We're not going to tell you can't do that, all right? So just get your urethane or silane adhesive out and go.
And you get to use the trowel that you're comfortable with based on the wood that you're putting down. One of the rules of thumb I had as an installer was I never want the top of the notch of the trowel to be taller than the bottom of the tongue on the wood. Does that make sense? Because if I have the tongue sticking up and I have the notches of the glue, when I go to put the next board in, I'm going to trap that glue in there and I'm going to have bleeders everywhere. So now you can go to a smaller notch but more of them and actually wind up putting the same amount of glue as a bigger notch with less of them, believe it or not. So now we're just going to go ahead. This is Eco 977, can handle up to 15 pounds of vapor or 95% on RH meter all by itself. By going over top of Planasil PMB after a couple of hours, I don't need to worry about that. I can use whatever notch I want to use, and I can go ahead and glue my floor directly down. This is also fast setting, so how quickly is this going to grab?
2.5 hours.
In 2.5 hours. Can I walk on the floor in 2.5 hours?
Absolutely.
2.5 hours. This is a fast setting, rapid setting adhesive, whereas polyurethanes in the past have been kind of slow. They do a great job. Just try to pull one up a couple of days after you glue it down. You'll find out what a great job they do. But they've been kind of slow, and you don't always have that time frame. Sometimes I never want to work on top of the floor, but when I get to the 2-foot mark up against the wall, I don't want to walk on what I just did, and I still got to figure out how to get this last bit done. This is always a challenge. I'm always morally struggling here about how much I'm crawling across the top of that floor. Because here's what happens. You got to think about this. When you spread polyurethane on top of the floor and you put your wood floor on top, when I step on top of that board, what I'm doing is I'm displacing that material, and that material is winding up basically the outline of my foot. So I have less material where I stepped and twice as much material right next to it. I created a low spot and a high spot in the exact same moment. And then everything is fine until Mrs. Smith's 2-pound, 7-ounce Pekingese goes walking across that floor and she hears clickety-clack. She hears a hollow spot on the floor. Now she thinks she has a problem. When you work on top of a wet glue like that, that's where the problems start arising. I can tell you, with my wife, if she paid $10,000 for a floor and she found a hollow spot on the floor, you'd be ripping it up. And I would be leaving the house going, you deal with her, she's the customer. That's the way it is. So, by doing it this way, you're working off the floor. By having a rapid setting adhesive, people can get on the floor sooner. You know, anybody who's been on a job, commercial job or residential job, you have no idea what goes on and who walks on that floor after you leave the job. So many times I tell everybody, I put caution tape up, and I tell everybody, listen, you can't walk on the floor until tomorrow. You come in, there's footprints all over top of that floor. You don't know when you hope they walked on it 4 or 5 hours after you left and not 15 minutes after you left, but you don't know.
And real quick, another nice feature here is Sam was talking about. So you could theoretically, you could vapor proof, okay? So you could take care of a moisture issue and install your wood floor all in the same day, and by the end of the day, people could be walking on it, okay? So that's a real big jump forward, and as far as a timeline, when you're facing that sort of challenge. The other nice feature here, this is that with the PMB product is, I just put the lid back on it, okay? I didn't have to mix anything, all right? The problem in the past with liquid applied vapor barriers were they were typically epoxies,
2 parts.
you know, right? So, and once you mix the A and the B, you're on the clock. And if you don't use it, it's gone, all right? So this, you put the top back on it, take it to the next job, all right? So you're not having to lose an entire unit every time you open one up.
So what do you got what you're standing on right there? What is that?
This is MRS, all right?
All right, so MRS, moisture resistant skim coat. This is important because if I'm going to put a moisture barrier over something and I have whoopties in the floor, that's a technical term, whoopties. If I have whoopties in the floor, I can do the surface prep first by using a product that is able to handle the trapped moisture, like MRS, and flatten the floor out, and now I can just come and roll my moisture barrier over a nice flat surface. If you use a standard patching compound, it gets trapped underneath there and the vapor rises up, it's going to hit the back side of that barrier. It could break down your patch if it's not moisture resistant. We make 3 of them in a complete lineup. We make a deep filled product, quick patch. We make a skim coating product, MRS, and we make Planet Extreme, which is a self-leveling product. All 3 of those are interior, exterior grade patching and leveling products that can be done first, and then the moisture barrier goes on top. Advantage of working and coming from South Florida is there's a lot of old terrazzo floors, and the one good thing about a terrazzo floor is that they're perfectly flat, and you do not fight the floor when you're gluing something to a terrazzo floor. It goes in so easy, and you're like, yeah, and after a while you start to realize I can make my other floors this flat, all jobs would go this smooth. So I like to do my surface prep first. Now we're going to talk about that box I warned you about. What Logan has here, and what you see back behind me here, is a 2-sided tape. MRT and SRT. MRT stands for moisture resistant tape. SRT stands for sound reduction tape. This is the SRT, so it has a little bit of foam to it. Now this is where I need you to get outside of your comfort zone. You're like, tape, bro, really? What are we going to do with tape? Let me tell you what you're going to do with tape. You're going to do stairs with tape. No glue dragging those things up the steps. Think about when you do steps. You're constantly working above the finished product that you just did. If you knock that glue bucket over, it's going on top of your finished product. Think about base. Think about doing any installation at all. Starter rows. I just discussed this with a guy about starter rows. Here's the cool thing about tape, unlike glue. Once I put the tape down and I put the product in there, the more I walk on it, the better it grabs. I can walk on it instantaneously. There's no downtime. There's none whatsoever. And the more you walk on the stuff, the better it grabs. This is a win-win situation. Here's another advantage with tape. What kind of cleanup am I going to have on top of that wood floor? None. Zero. There's no more. There's none of that. I got polyurethane all over the floor. As clean as I thought I could be, no matter what. Every polyurethane job I did, I would clean the whole floor, and I would be walking out of the house and go, the hell is that? Like, you see spots everywhere. Then none of that's going to happen here. So here's what I'm going to tell you as installers. I'm going to put this stuff out there and put it in your hands, and you're going to come back and tell me where you're using it. Because the one thing I know and trust with installers is put good products in their hands, get out of their way. You guys figure it out, man. You guys will come up with the methods, the areas, and the places to use the product.
Got bowed boards.
Come on, push that thing in there. You need a hammer is what you need, bro.
I know. Get my tapping block over there.
All right, behind you, my friend. What is that? You know what that is? That's a repair. So where else am I going to use tape? Think about, you know what, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. When I used to do repairs, I would go ahead, get the repair ready, get it cut. You know Mrs. Smith is standing there watching everything you're doing. She's just waiting for you to leave when that repair is done. I would find a board right by there that was a similar size. I would tell Mrs. Smith she needed to fill this 5-gallon bucket of water up because this is a water set repair material. I know, I'm going to a special place when I die. She would be in the bathroom filling the water bucket up. I would go ahead, put the glue down, make the repair, move over 2 boards, and put tape over top of a board that wasn't the repair. And then she would come out, and then I would grab the bucket of water and set it on top and go, oh, we just got it done just in time. Because her and her husband, for the next 24 hours, are staring at that board to try and see what it's doing. In the meantime, they're standing on the repair. Repairs are just that. They are repairs. If you look hard enough, you can always see them. However, this repair right here, no glue. Think about that. I'm just peeling off the tape. I got to go and make a repair. I put it down. The more she walks across the floor, the more I walk across the floor, the repair is made. So these are all features and benefits. Let's talk about moisture and vapor. The MRT, moisture resistant tape. The moisture rating on that is?
Unlimited.
Unlimited, as long as there's not standing water. What? Yeah, unlimited. The SRT is?
Unlimited.
Unlimited, as long as there's not standing water. With the MRT, which is a thinner, clearer plastic tape, you overlap it. With the SRT, which is the foam back tape, you're going to go ahead, you're going to use a single strip at the seam if you want to make this moisture proof. A single strip at the seam, and you're going to pull it, and then you're going to go ahead and put the tape down, the SRT overlapping it. So basically, I would snap lines where my seams were at, and then I would pre-run the tape down those lines, and then as I rolled the product out and butted up against them, then I would just pull out the tape underneath, and now I have a moisture-proof system right here, waiting to have something installed on top of it. So these are just options outside of that box that you normally are standing in. It doesn't always have to be glue. It doesn't always have to be something. We have glue systems. This is just next generation. This is 2019, guys. And the thing I like about this the most is walking on it helps it, doesn't hurt it. The time frame, it's ready to go right now. Let's just pretend we're going to go ahead and install wood flooring in this space right here. We're going to start across the back line. Even if I don't want to use the tape for the whole job, by doing a 1-foot strip of the tape, I can get my starter row in. And now I don't have to wait any time for that. I can just bump right up against my starter row and go from there. So I'm counting on you guys to figure out other ways of using this because I know you will. At this point, we cover everything.
We're done.
All right, questions? Yes, sir. Yeah, he needs to know what kind of condition the concrete needs to be in. It needs to be clean, needs to be swept, it should be porous, is fine, because that if you have a porous slab, you probably have vapor emissions. I can't have, I can't have your street as the texture, so I'm looking for a 1 to a 2 on a CSP, a surface profile. It'll go over shiny. Yeah, absolutely. There's no limitations that way. Yes, sir. Pardon? Is there a board width limitation on the tape? Good question. So am I going to put unfinished on here and sand it? Am I going to put engineered on top of there? Yeah. I'll put finish engineered and finish solid on top of there. And right now, I don't think we have a board limitation. Board width limitation. Because I'm going to make full contact all the way across the back of there. Yes, sir. Ooh, will it work over radiant heat? Gosh, yes, absolutely. These are all great questions. As a Floridian, I'm like, radiant heat, radiant heat. Air conditioning? No. Great question. Anybody else? All right, it's my last little rant. I'm going to end on a positive note here. First things first, absolutely amazing, the work that I'm seeing done out there. I'm so proud to be part of this industry. It absolutely makes me proud, and you guys should be proud too. A couple of things. We need to do a way better job recruiting the next generation and the next generation. And I don't have the answers for this. I don't know how, and I'm not the only one who doesn't have the answers for this. This needs to start at a very young age. We need to stop demonizing being in the construction industry. We need to start memorializing being in the construction industry. We are construction artists. The work that we do is the equivalent to artwork, only we live on top of the artwork. It's not a picture on a wall that you don't touch. It's a picture on a floor that you walk on and your kids crawl across and your dog walks across it, and you live on this thing. We need to project that out there to society. We need to shut down people, the academians and the people out there that are bringing us down, and we need to elevate ourselves. No building gets a CO until we show up and put a floor in. We need to make sure we're mentoring the next generation, inspiring the next generation. Owners of the companies, I want to tell you right now, do you have an employee of the month? Is he on your webpage every month? Because guess what? The installer's the guy who actually gets this stuff done. You want to reach out, you want to incite, you want to invigorate that next generation. You know what they love the most? To see themselves on Facebook. Give them a $25 gift certificate and have them be on their face on the page of your website for that month. And they're in the van while they're driving to the next job going, you know who that is? You know, that's employee of the month. So you drive. That's employee of the month right there. Oh, wait, that's me. You're rubbing that into everybody in that van, and everybody else in the van's going, I'm a way better installer than he is, man. How the hell did he get that? Well, you know what? That's because I did the stairs. He got the credit for it. But you're creating that environment. We have to reach out and create that environment. We got to do a better job. I always say, my generation, this happened on my watch. I have two sons. My oldest son's an accountant. My youngest son's a drummer in a heavy metal rock band. Neither of them install floors. And I spent the first 20 years telling them, you're not going to be in the flooring business, and now I'm kind of regretting that for the drummer. I'm just, the accountant, I'm good with that. 1 out of 2 is not bad. No, I'm just saying, we need to go ahead, stop demonizing being in this business. This is an honorable trade to be in, and it's an honor to be here in front of you guys today. On behalf of MAPEI, Logan, thank you so much. Jeff, thank you so much for the products. Tony, thank you for all your hard work. On behalf of MAPEI, thank you. We appreciate you. You are the reason we exist. Thank you very much.